Hello and welcome to the Up podcast with me, Kristin Louise. I am so thankful for people that have reached out to me in the last week about this season. We are in season 3, episode 2. And in this episode, I'm going to try to keep these solo episodes very brief. I've gotten a lot of good feedback on that, and I agree. Y'all are busy. A lot of women listen to this podcast, a lot of moms. We need it to be digestible, not just me rambling. I'm extremely good at rambling, and I can be a good storyteller, but with these solo episodes where I'm not interviewing somebody, I'm going to try my best to keep them extremely short and sweet. So I even did something for you guys. If this doesn't show you how much I love you all, okay? I always say I love you online, and I do. So if nobody's told you that today, I love you online. I put together bullet points for this podcast episode. Yes, it's on a piece of junk mail because I don't like to waste things. But I typically just kind of roll on highway. I know in my head I've got a plan and I will execute that, but I am not I don't like to, I just like to let the Spirit lead me, whatever you feel like that is. I like to let the Spirit lead me, let's just say that. Kind of an intuitive speaker in that way. But at the same time, I do have a formal degree in training and speaking, so I guess I'm a lot of things. Anybody identify with that out there today? Feeling like there are a lot of things. Gosh, I'm 39 now, and a big story and journey that I want to share in this podcast this season is just how great being 39 can be. I spent my early 30s. I remember specifically, well, first of all, I'll just say I threw myself my own 30th birthday party. I didn't think anybody else was going to do it. Like, nothing against my friends or my husband or whatever, but I didn't think anybody else was going to do it. So I decided I wanted one and I threw it. And I'm glad I did. Glad I, hit that milestone. I've got a good friend that's getting ready to turn 40 and she's doing the same thing. And, she knows who she is. Love you, girl. And we talk almost every day. And I'm like, yes. Like, you see those flowers back there? I bought those for myself at the grocery store. Not to have a Miley Cyrus moment, but like, we can buy our own flowers. Like, we don't have to wait for other people. It was, gosh, when it's not Valentine's Day, those cost me $8 at Aldi. We don't have to wait for people to celebrate us. And I remember rolling into that 30th birthday and being like, I don't know if anybody's going to do anything, but it was the same weekend. My birthday was the same weekend as alumni weekend at William Woods, which I'm an alumna. Well, I guess I'm a multi-alumni of William Woods. And I was like, I just want to do something. Like, I want to capitalize on that. And so I did. It was a couple $100 well spent, and I'm thankful for everybody who came. And I actually really like stuff like that. Would it have been nice to have had something? Maybe. We can't get wrapped up in things in life, though. Like, at 39, that was 9 years ago. It's weird. The day that I found out about my daughter's graduation year, it's 2039. Spoiler. It was offensive. Like, it offended me personally. I was like, how do I have a daughter that's going to graduate in 2039? Like, at that time that I found out, it was probably like 2022 or something. And I was just like, oof, like punch to the gut, right? So I'm 39 now, and it's not that bad, okay? Like, let me big sister you for a minute, and if you're not younger than me, just listen up, because maybe you need this pep talk too. But like, somebody explained the podcast, and I can't remember if it was the first season or the second season, but somebody explained it. She's listened to like every episode. Morgan, I just want to shout you out, honestly. Like, you're amazing. But one of the ways she explained it was like, you're talking with a friend and you're getting advice from a friend. And yes, I hope it feels that way. I don't know everything, but I have enough humility to submit what's going on in my life to you here on the Up. And I am going to bring in some guests this season, like I set the stage for last week. But what I kind of thought, I've done a lot more planning in season 3. I think I've kind of got the hang of this a little bit. And what I kind of thought I needed to do prior to having those guests on and kind of starting our journey together was I needed you guys to understand why I created the podcast. I said a little bit last episode, but like, there's a full story there. Why I denied a exclusive podcast on another platform, because I think that's shocking to people when they find that out. That I had had no funding for season 1. I just started this. It was a heart-led project. And so just talk a little bit about like what you're going to see in this season and like how the funding for the time in this project happens. And I want to talk about my story as a mother, because as I interview people throughout the rest of the season, I want you guys to understand the lens in which I'm doing that. I think that's fair. I have I have a degree in formal education in communication, and that encompasses many things. People are like, oh, I've heard this before. As a teacher myself, I've heard it like, oh, communication, like that's an easy degree. Like I've even heard business people come over and be like, well, I didn't want to take macro, so I'm going to do comm. And I mean, that is true. You don't have to take macro to do comm, okay? Like I can tell you that in the present day collegiate, you don't have to take macro economics to be a comm major, okay? Some places that's going to be called strat comm now. Some places that's going to be journalism. I mean, like communication can encompass speaking, PR, writing, broadcasting. It can encompass so many things. It can be, Stratcom is now emerging, and I definitely had a lot of coursework on that, but, it can be organizational leadership, it can be gender communication, it can be communication theory. There's just so many ways that you can be a communication major, but none of them require macro. So I do hear that sometimes, like, oh yeah, like it's an easy degree. I mean, I guess it could be. I didn't pick it because it was easy. So I want to tell you guys a little bit about that story because that's going to kind of go into the naming of this. I originally wanted to go to school. Well, my first plan, I had two plans. My first plan was to be an elementary teacher, and I did cadet teaching through Jeff City High School, which is where I'm from. And it was a cool program. It was just kind of launching at that time, but we got to go and shadow a teacher. And so shout out Miss Trout. She was my elementary music teacher, and I absolutely love music and thought that that's maybe something I wanted to do was teach music. And I found out through that very quickly that it was not for me. I think that I made a wise choice being around kids a lot now and having one of my own. I don't think teaching at that level, I think I had it right. I think I wanted to share like gifts with people, and music is a gift. Dance is a gift. So many things are gifts. I wanted to teach and I wanted to share those gifts with people, but I don't think music education was probably meant for me. And it didn't take me long in the classroom to figure that out. But I did it. I did my cadet teaching hours because it was like, you got to go to the school a couple times a week, and then those hours were your credits. So it was like you didn't have to sit in class for like one of your blocks of school or whatever. And I did that. But then I rekindled my connection to Miss Trout, and she was just such a wonderful influence in my elementary life. She helped spark the fire for me in theater and cast me in my role as Dolly Holiday in We're Going to Branson. And anybody that knows me knows that, like, I'm obsessed with Dolly Parton. Like, fast forward to 39, I'm obsessed with Dolly Parton. Like, obsessed. Like, Dolly, I love you. Like, I'm going to cry. Like, she'll never see this, but, like, obsessed with everything to do with her and who she is and her music and her life and her story. Okay, that was not the point. That was not even on my bullet list. But like I played her, in We're Going to Branson, but I also love Branson. I grew up vacationing in Branson, and then I worked in Branson for many years, and I was on TV in Branson. And so, like I just feel like there's so much foreshadowing in that. And that's part of my book and like my bigger story. So you'll get to read about that. I didn't realize I was going to get that emotional about Dolly. I just love you. And she was sick recently. And like, so glad you're okay. Okay. Anyway, focus girl. Here's a quick tip. Somebody that cries a lot. My, wonderful counselor shared this with me after I cried through many sessions. She's like, you can't cry and simultaneously drink a liquid. So I always go armed. I'm one of those beverage goblins. Andrea Kaspari was on season 2 of The Up With Me, and she's an amazing, I hope I said your last name right, Andrea. I think I did. She's part of like the board teachers collective of amazing comedians, and she went to school with me. She went to school at the same school I went to, not at the same time, but she's hilarious, and her comedy, like, you should really look her up. She has a bit that she does about being a beverage goblin. And, you have to have your water, and then you have to have your caffeinated beverage, and you have to have your treat beverage. I am such a beverage goblin. Anybody that goes to the gym with me, they can attest. I'm just collecting my beverages and moving them like a beverage goblin. But yeah, so if you drink a liquid, it can even be, I've done this with like smoothies. I mean, like it really does work. Like you can't simultaneously be drinking it, and I don't know how it works. It's science, okay? I'm a comm major. I don't know. I did take pretty extensive science though, because I think for our honors at William Woods at the time, the honors program, like we only had like 1 or 2 science options for honors. So I did take a little more science than maybe I even wanted to. But, I'm not. No shade. No beef. Anyway, I'm rambling, and we got to get this show on the road. So I wanted to tell you guys just a little bit more about me. And my original plan in life, like I said, was going to be a music teacher. Then I thought I was going to be a counselor or psychologist. And there's a couple of things I want to mention that stand out there. One is that a lot of people that want to be in, psychology and counseling and therapy and all that, they want to fix themselves or somebody else in their life. And so I was really wanting to do both. I had things that were broken in my life at the time, and that's really not part of the story that I'm going to put public, but there were things in my life I would have liked to have fixed, and I didn't know how to do that, and I thought, I'm smart, I could get an education in that. And so when I had to declare, as a freshman going into school, I said psychology, because they have to put you with an advisor, and you can be undecided, but I declared psychology. And I just laughed, because shout out Julian. He was not my advisor. There was another lady that was in the psychology department at William Woods, but anybody who's been to William Woods in the last 30 years, they know Julian Herzog. And I encountered him at Freshman Advantage, which was like an early program. You kind of got to get used to campus and get a few credits, and I loved Freshman Advantage. Anyway, I encountered Julian in Psych 101 or whatever class it was at Freshman Advantage, and I said, I'm a psych major. And he had us fill out these note cards, and I still have mine. It's in a box at my mom's house, and I'll try to find it. But he had us fill out these note cards, and it was goals and aspirations, and as you do, right? You're a new freshman, and I put there was 5 questions, and I only remember one of them specifically because on that one, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And I said, I see myself with some type of specialist degree. Because at that point, I really didn't know, do I want to go into psychiatry? I was just fresh into my journey. And I remember him walking around, and I remember specifically him stopping. He didn't know me. This was the first day of his class. And I'm sure he's been in education long enough, and any educator could tell you, you get feelings about people, and you kind of can see how they are, even though you haven't taught them yet. But he stopped and he said, why just a specialist degree? And I thought, did I do something wrong? I thought specialist degree was good. He said, why wouldn't you just go for the doctorate if you're going to get the specialist? And in my thought process, I was just like, do I need a doctorate? Sure, I'm all game. But man, that attitude that he had, I'm getting really emotional. I don't know why. I think just because I love all these people a lot. Not meaning to. That's one thing about having a lot of emotions. They come in happy and in sad. So this is happy. It was a great thing to experience on the first day at that college, because I was like, is that not good enough? A specialist degree? I didn't know what I wanted to do, but he was like, girl, go for it. Run. And I appreciate that. And then he's also simultaneously the one that kind of saved me, because I just realized psychology was not going to be it for me. First of all, my advisor was terrible, and he was not my advisor, but I was having a go around with her, and it was just, but that's not the reason why I changed. I was just, psychology, if you have a lot of emotions, I identify myself as a highly sensitive person, and if you have a lot of emotions like I do, holding on to other people's isn't a good idea. And I just thought, oh, this degree is going to fix me. I'm going to get this psychology degree. I'm going to be all better. And then I'm going to fix my whole life and my family and just everything, just everything. Save the world, whatever. And that was not the case. And I was really like getting depressed over the psychology degree because it's too much. I was not made for it. And so thankfully I went to a school where like, I knew quite a few of the professors. And like I said, I had been in the Freshman Advantage program. I had been on campus and, I have other gifts. Psychology, maybe something I could study, but it wasn't one of my natural gifts, okay? And I was really getting depressed. Like, it was too much for me to hold on to these feelings of other people. It was just too much. I can't say that enough. So, you know, Julian kindly points me in the direction of Dr. Amy Sapp. And I try not to call people out, but like these are just real people in my educational journey. And they're just such a, like, that changed the trajectory of why you're listening to this podcast today. I am not, okay. All right. He, had been in the education game a long time. He agreed that maybe it wasn't going to be, and I kept it as a minor, It wasn't like it wasn't an interest, but he said, why don't we, these other interests that you have, these classes that you've liked, why did I send you down to Dr. Sapp? Talk to her. And Amy was like, yes, girl. Yes, like, what's your thing you're most interested in? And I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, well, just let's try, let's put you in some classes. And I don't want to say it changed my entire life, but it really did, in the sense of that's why you're listening to this right now. I actually started a podcast when I was in college, and I have that story in season 1, if you want to go back and listen to. I forget the episode, but I'll put it in the notes here. And I just feel like that's exactly where I was supposed to be. Amy was exactly the person who I needed to look up to and was an amazing professor and just a mentor to me. And she knows that. I got a chance to tell her that recently. We've kept in touch somewhat, but not as much in the recent years since I've had my child. She's now moved on. She's an amazing woman who's a university president. I befriended the university president at the time at William Woods, Dr. Barnett. But I say befriended, it's not like we're besties, but I got onto something called President's 20 and her council of students that kind of advised her of things and made a profound impact on me. It's seeing women in leadership roles. Amy Sapp was the department chair of the communication, maybe all of the arts. I can't remember one or the other when I was there. And then she went on to be like all of the arts, and then she went on to be a dean, and then now she's a university president. And seeing women especially, but it was just such a profound impact on me. And I thank Julian for being honest with me, because I was in ed psych, I think, and it was a great class, and I got a fine grade in it, but I had taken enough of the other. I think I was going through abnormal as well with a different professor at the time, and it was just not going to be my thing. Let's just put it that way, guys. So you have me here, and you're listening, and I just want to share those things because I think it's so important. Like, as young women hear stories of like, hey, she did not know she was going to do this. This is something that she worked toward. Some people think, oh, she's just... I've heard like a way with words, you got the gift of gab, and maybe I did a little bit, but I really did focus in on and hone these skills through a lot of hard work, dedication, degrees. Like, I did put the time in. You got to put the reps in, and I did that. So don't just see something like this or listen to the interviews that I would do. My interviewing was my job for several years. So, and it's a joy. It's a joy to be able to use those skills. I'll never regret having a liberal arts degree. I'll never regret going to William Woods. I'll never regret starting my work in social media, even though I really kind of feel like at one point it almost did me in. But that's another story for another podcast episode. But I want to give you guys the reasoning behind the name The Up. I haven't revealed that, and it isn't really for any reason other. I just didn't feel like it was the time. So I want to tell you guys that story, and then I want to tell you what this podcast almost was. So I think I, and probably many other people that are go-getters, I'm an Enneagram 8, if you identify with that at all, if you know the Enneagram. I would describe myself, if I'm being extremely honest, I feel like I have some of the best ideas in the room. I'm a natural leader. I can sometimes be confrontational, especially when it's like standing up for something or protecting somebody. And that's not a bad thing, okay? Like, that's not a terrible thing about me, but it can be a lot for people. And I've learned over the years to soften and manage it. And I've also just learned, like, the rooms I can and can't do that in for the most part. I mean, we all make mistakes, but it's been a process. But for any Enneagram 8s out there, I see you. We are one of the more rare ones. I think we're like the second most rare. And when you encounter one of those in the wild and you meet somebody that's like yourself, it's been so rare for me. I've only had a few close friends that I really got to know and see and understand personally that were 8s. And that's a big part in my book too, of just figuring that out. But when I think about the podcast, one thing that I unfortunately have to say is when I initially wanted to do one, and this would have been years and years ago, even before I had my daughter, I thought, I should write a book and I should have a podcast. I think I was doing that for the wrong reasons. I think I was doing it in more of a performative way, and I can do that, and watch me kind of a way. And I don't think there's anything wrong with putting on a show, so to speak, and being a creator. I just think like the intentions, were maybe wrong. I didn't move forward with it at that point. I had still a corporate career, and then I just got myself, when I left my corporate career, I got myself so busy with client work. I ended up having a pretty successful marketing business on my own for a little bit, and I even burned out in that. How does somebody that like burned out in corporate, was unhappy there, had success in her own business, burned out there, burned out on social media? That's 3 burnouts in a decade. Like, I have to pump the brakes. This has to be something to do with me. Like, it is personal at that point. That's 3 burnouts. And this is my story. I share it humbly because it's going to help somebody else. That's the whole point of sharing, period. So the up, and I'm specific in when I reference it, I usually capitalize U and P. I don't want to get in, and I might do an episode fully on this later, but I don't want to get in today because I want to keep this short to the point, and I want to set the stage for interviews. So motherhood, modern motherhood is our season 3 theme. I think I said that. I know I said it last episode. I'm so excited about what I'm going to be talking about this season. So let's set the stage. I had an online presence. So I had over a decade in corporate marketing, and I was like an MC for a time. I was on television for a little while. I was an MC for a show, and like I was the marketing manager for that show. And then like a stage show. And then I was on television for a little bit of time, and I was also selling advertising and working in promotions for that TV station. And then my background, I got into the corporate world and had a couple of different jobs, but my longest standing one was working for a food franchising company. And I learned a lot there, but I just got burned out through all of those, honestly. Like, I learned a lot along the way, and I'm grateful, so I don't want to ever speak ill of them because they provided a lot to me, and I gave a lot to them too, like, especially that last one. I put my heart and soul in there. And it didn't end quite how I wanted it to, but I know that was the plan now. Like, on the other side, I appreciate it and know it was the plan. But when I left, I made one phone call in the parking lot of Target. When you leave a job, because I left, I was not happy with many things, and it had come to a head. And I think they were surprised that I would just leave. And I did. I put in my formal notice, and when I left that job for the last time, I went to Target, because what else does a woman do? I walk around Target. It's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Go to Target, have my emotional support Starbucks, and I made one phone call. I didn't know what my next move was going to be. I was fired up though, and I made one phone call, and that one phone call to the right person landed me a huge client that, set the stage for having my own business. But I even burned out in that. And the reason why I share that is when you're down, you have to come up. There's no way that you can go, okay, Kristin, get it together. There's no way if you're down. And I felt very down. Like, Kristin, is anything going to be for you? Like, are you going to be happy with anything? If you're down, there's no way you can go but up. Don't think about going further down. That's the only thing that got me through some days. And I know that sounds dark. And I don't want people that love me to listen to something like this and take it upon themselves to be like, I wish I would have known. Guys, can I just put a PSA out there? When people share their hearts and are vulnerable in the way that I'm doing, don't make it about you. Don't. Full stop. Don't make it about you. This has nothing to do with you. Maybe you wish, and that's fine, but don't make that the thing you say. One of my other things that I hate that people say, and I'm just going to use the word hate even though it's rude. I tell somebody some news. I'm sorry to hear that. What a weird response. Like, I know that it's just a social grace or whatever. So maybe people don't even think about it, but like, I'm sorry to hear that. Doesn't give me much to go off of. Maybe you could say, how could I pray for you? Or maybe you could say, it sounds like you're going through a lot. Is there anything that you need? Or maybe you could say, wow, we need to catch up. Like, let's find a time, But if somebody shares something really personal and hard with you, let's try to normalize it, to not make it about us. Because I don't share things to blame people. I share things to inspire people. And I can't change my feelings. That's one of the biggest and hardest things about life for me. I was given a lot of emotions. And I have to deal with them. And I've learned so much coping, and I've been through medicines and all kinds of stuff. But it's my responsibility to deal with those. It's great to have safe people, and I have those people, and I have a lot of love and support. But if somebody comes to you and tells you, that they've been down and they've been having a hard time, well, you should have said something, let's not do that, because that just makes me feel worse. It just makes me feel wrong again, like I've done something wrong. Did I mention that I'm sensitive? I think it's funny because people that really know me, I think they do know, because I do get vulnerable. It's a close, small circle of people I'll get vulnerable with, very close. But everybody else is like, she's sensitive? Yeah, I am. And I think there's a lot of people that if they were really being honest and real, really real, I think they feel sensitive about things too. And maybe I have just processed them a little bit more because I have a little bit more feelings. I don't know. But I'm here to tell you that the name of the podcast is a shout out. We do get knocked down. What's the song? Who sang that song? I get knocked down, but I get up again. I don't even remember who sings it. But anyway, it wasn't because of that. But if somebody is down, I want them to know the only other way to go is up. And you're going to get there, but you might need some help. It's very hard to dig yourself out of a low hole. And honestly, it's not helpful to do it by yourself. You don't get a trophy for that. And I just want to say that, okay? Like, you don't get a trophy for being quiet and for helping yourself through things. Somebody else is more qualified to help you through. So the up is supposed to be inspirational. I'm not always going to be up, though. That's not real life. But it's also a nod to my former presence online, which I'm even getting nervous. Like this morning, thinking about this, I was already getting some hives. I get them on my hands sometimes when I get nervous, and sometimes on my neck, but that's not very often. I have tells. We all do. Pretty good at identifying those. But I don't talk about this a lot because it was a scary thing. But I did have a time online where I was on TikTok, a little bit on Facebook too, but mostly just TikTok. It was kind of as that platform was emerging, and I got on there as a dancer because I thought the dances were fun. Like, I was late 20s, thought it was fun. Oh, I don't know, maybe I was like 30. But anyway, I got into really I would read the Bible and I would do Bible studies with people. And I had like a lot of religious content, like faith-based content. And it was just something I felt led to do. It wasn't a plan. It just happened. Like I started gaining a following and I was like, I want to use this, for good. And I believe, and I ran this by several people in my life, I believe that there is the divine creator, that's God. And he's created the universe and everything in it. So I just think there's these people and they're like, labeled as woo or spiritual. And then I think there's these like religious Christian people. And I think there's so much commonality between the two. They just maybe don't have the language to marry them or even to appreciate them. I can tell you, I can only speak from my own experience. This is my podcast, okay? I can tell you growing up with a religious background, I don't even like the word religion, so I'm just using it carefully, but in a Christian, I'm not sure I even like that word. I like Jesus. I'm into Jesus. But yeah, growing up in a Christian religious background and like being exposed to faith, growing up in church. Not even sure I'm crazy about that word. I mean, I go. It's not like I don't, but I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of things to unpack there. We don't have time, but where I'm at with it is I believe in some churches, especially back in the 90s, when I was growing up, I believe that there was almost an indoctrination happening toward people that didn't believe the same way we did. And so we couldn't ask questions. At my church, you could not ask questions, okay? Like, from a girl who had a lot of questions, that was not very well met. I can specifically remember one day, our pastor at the time's wife was my Sunday school teacher, and I mean, there was only a few of us. It was a small church. There was only a few of us in the class. But I can specifically remember being asked to step outside because I had too many questions. That's not going to make a person ask questions, is it? Maybe she didn't have a good answer for that question that day. Maybe I was being annoying. I don't know. I was like in the 4th grade. So yeah, like kids are going to be kids. I think I was a pretty well-behaved kid though, and I think most people would tell you that. I think I'm just extremely intelligent and I want to understand things, and I ask questions. Except then, after that happened, I didn't ask questions about faith for a really long time because that didn't bode well, But anyway, I've healed from a lot of that. I've sat in amazing churches. I've, become friends with religious leaders and all these things. And I think that faith is probably the most important part of my personal journey. It's not the number one thing I'm ever going to talk about in this podcast, but you'll know my faith by listening to it and the stories that I tell and the way I interview. So I never want to, if I'm going to be an interviewer, I'm not a journalist, okay? So this is my podcast. There is going to be a little bit of bias. It's my personal, bias. So just know that when I say the up, it's because I've been down. And I want everybody to be on the up. I want you to be well. And I want to share things that I can to help with that. The other thing that it stands for is the universe provides. And some people are going to get really bent out of shape over something like that. But I believe that God created everything, the universe included. And I think that if I say the universe provides, that's actually something that was created by God. And that's not me questioning my faith or people hear universe. Oh, they get, weirded out. I want to tell a story about these prayer cards. I buy them at Dollar Tree. And I don't make them. They're made by Dollar Tree or, they're sold by Dollar Tree. Crown Jewels with a Z. That's who makes these. I buy them and I hand them out frequently. My daughter loves handing these out. I just feel like there's been so many times in my life that having something like that to cling to was so important. I can recall really hard times in my life where I recited a verse over and over, and it got me through some really, really long nights and some really tough stuff. So I like to hand those out, and they're like $1.25 now, and they're pretty, and it's just part of the thing that I feel led to do. So I do that. But I went into a Bible study at a church that I was attending. This is several years ago now, and it was a women's Bible study. And I just thought, you know what a great place to give out a prayer card. I will go in and I will, I'm the kind of person where they had a book and they were going through it week by week, and I read the entire book before I walked in the door, because that's who I am. And I just thought, I'm going to give these ladies these prayer cards. It wasn't even a flex. It was just like, what a great audience for these. These people need these. And there was this one older lady, and I still don't know if it was fully a joke or not, but she told me to put away my tarot cards. I had them, I'll show you. I didn't want people to see the scripture. I mean, they're prayer cards, but I just had them fanned out. So I guess maybe that could look like somebody was doing a tarot deck or something. I mean, I don't know. But they all had scripture on the back. And I laughed. I was nervous. I got to be honest here. I'm going to be really honest. And maybe this is a hot take, and I say it with love. Christians make me nervous. I am a Christian. But there's a brand of Christians that make me, there's several that make me nervous. But that made me nervous. I have a story on my Instagram. It just popped into my head as another time I was nervous, because I was being vulnerable in a group of people I thought I was pretty close to, and just telling a story about college, and they kind of know my story. I walked away from faith, and I think I had some good reasons to do that, but I wasn't super into the church at the time that I was in college, and I was making a joke about a song by Nelly Furtado called Maneater, and I was like, well, at least it wasn't Promiscuous Girl, and people were laughing, they were rolling. I mean, people were, they thought it was funny. And then there's this one gal, and she's just staring at me. And I get that feeling from people, particularly some church people sometimes, but not always. I get that feeling from people, is she done yet? No, I just got to say I'm not done. I got a lot to say. Things like that make me uncomfortable. It makes me feel like I can't be who I am. It makes me feel like I can't be honest. It's rude, it's judgmental, and I think it's a big reason. I mean, that one person isn't all those things all the time. I'm just saying it's an example of people aren't going to come to your church, and they're not going to share their faith with you if you're not open. They're just not. They're not going to feel comfortable. And, I wish everybody the best. It's not a personal attack on that situation. It was an example, but same thing with the tarot cards. I was so uncomfortable. First of all these women were much older than me, and so I felt I was kind of hoping maybe there'd be somebody my age in there, but I was fine with that even. But it was not the best start. I didn't go back to the Bible study, by the way. I just felt And I could have gone back, and I'm a big girl, but people get that kind of stuff twisted about me all the time. I love the Lord. And so you're going to hear a lot of that in these interviews, and you're going to hear that in my bias of, I can only be who I am. This is my podcast. But it is called The Up, and if you've been down, pull somebody else up. That's what I want to see in the world. I had a few people that tethered onto me like a life vest, spoke life into me publicly, very publicly, and privately, and I probably wouldn't, I don't know if I wouldn't be here necessarily. I don't want to put it that heavily, but I wouldn't be doing this podcast. I wouldn't be the woman I am without some of that. So first of all, thank you. Several of them know who they are. Probably not listening to this, but who knows? Speak life into people when you can. Let's try to be less judgmental. Gosh, can we try to be kinder too? If I'm just putting this out into the universe, can we just try to be nicer to people online? I'm sitting on a video that I got to post today right now. In real time, I'll be honest with you. I'm recording this the same day I'm going to post this because I've been thinking about it. I've been thoughtfully thinking about it for over a week, what I wanted to say in this episode. And I'm sitting on this video of myself and it's me dancing because I'm teaching a new hip hop class and I want to promote it. And the way that you do that is you put a little bit of the choreography, like who wants to come learn this? I'm so scared, guys. I think it's important that you guys should know that I get scared. I think every single person that puts themselves up for the punching bag that is the internet gets scared. They could tell you, I've got thick skin, I've got this many years in this, blah, 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 blah. I think everybody has a heart. Maybe it doesn't bother them like it bothers me. I've learned, though. I mean, it bothers me far less than it used to. It used to demolish me. But I used to have this, I don't know, movement or whatnot, hashtag, the universe is lit. And it had some really good meaning behind it. It was faith-based, but because it had the universe in it, people just, no. And I'm not bringing it back. I'm not going back to that era. I'm moving forward, but I'm not ashamed of it. And this podcast is somewhat named for that because it made me who I am. It was a huge part of this progression. So that's the up. And I'm Kristin Louise. If you haven't met me, I'm a mom. I am a stay-at-home mom and marketer. So I am the stay-at-home marketer. That's what I've coined myself. And when I originally wanted to start this podcast, maybe for the wrong reasons, a few years back, I was looking for sponsorships. I was like, somebody's got to pay me for the time I'm going to put into this. I really was pleased with myself, if you can't tell. Like, I am talented, and I am. I am talented. I'm multi-talented. I know that. But I was looking for a big sponsor, and I'm just going to be humble enough to tell you I was trying to get Kia to sponsor me. It almost happened. I was trying to get Kia to sponsor me. I was going to record this podcast in a Carnival minivan. They were coming out with the Carnivals, like just kind of rolling them out. And it was going to demo the hands-free and the speakers and stuff like that. And just the spaciousness of, I was going to drive to people and interview them. It was a very cute idea. I was going to drive to people, it'd be a road trip, and interview them in the minivan. It would be all decked out, And I had pitched that, and I was very disappointed when it didn't end up going through, and we don't have time for all of that. And it's nothing against them. I mean, whatever. But then I was like, oh, it's just not worth my time. Well, then I kind of rebranded it. I rented a podcast space in St. Louis, recorded 4 episodes there. When I say rented, it's by the hour. It's a studio you can go and record in. Because I wanted it to be professional, and I wanted it to be, if I'm going to do it, it has to be perfect, was in my mind. And then I was humbled and almost died. I had an emergency appendectomy 3 summers ago. Was it 3? Yeah. And in that, I realized a few things, and one of them is it doesn't have to be fancy, you just have to do it. And I want to speak that into you today. If you've got stuff you're sitting on, I knew I was sitting on these things. I didn't know exactly how I was supposed to do them, but I knew that's what the Lord wanted me to do. And if you don't have a time in your day and a way to connect to God, through prayer, through reading the Bible, I can't recommend that enough. It's transformative. The mornings are my time, and I have an entire podcast episode all about that in season 1 if you want to go back and listen. But I knew what I was called to. I wasn't being obedient. And unfortunately, I found myself in a hospital, almost dying. It's, I tried to make light of it, but it was a very scary couple of days for me. And I think that the takeaway there is I didn't need a fancy podcast. I didn't need a recording studio. I didn't need a free Kia Carnival, even though that would have been quite a flex. And I also got this offered after I did those pilot episodes. I also got offered an exclusive deal with a podcasting platform. I had a connection that was able to write a really good pitch deck for me. I mean, I'm pretty good, but that's not my wheelhouse, really. I would say my wheelhouse is definitely more in the speech comm, the paid traffic, monetization on Facebook, or Meta, I should say, that kind of stuff. So I had somebody that was able to write me a really good pitch deck and collaborate with me on that. And I was like, I am going to be the next big thing. And again, I think it was from a negative place. So I put a kibosh on that. Even though, they were willing, it wasn't a huge deal, it wasn't getting multi hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I was getting money to produce it plus money for my time. And a lot of people would say yes. I've said yes to that in the past. But I thought on it, I prayed on it, and it wasn't it. And so I started this podcast in my basement, and there is no high production value. I'm sitting in my kitchen right now because the lighting's better. That's really the only reason. My daughter's sleeping, recording this. What time is it? I don't even know. 7 o'clock in the morning. But I am connected to the Lord. I am trying to be obedient. And I humbly tell you, it is scary to do it online, to live your life online. Like I said, I've got this dance video. I'm sitting on it. I tried to make it 3 times now. I'm just being really, 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 really real right now. I can't upload it. I'm going to upload it today because I have to. Deadlines are important for people for that reason. Like, I'm a creative person and I live and die by deadlines. But yeah, it stinks because somebody's going to say something about my body. And I painfully know that I could be smaller. Do you think anybody online doesn't know that? Do you think I don't know that I have a double chin? Every single time I've got a selfie picture, I know what to do. I don't edit them, it's not like I Facetune it, but I know the angle to get my face. But a video, you can't do anything about that. Recently, I had somebody on one of my Instagram videos comment about my gobbler, my turkey gobbler. My friend Andrea that I was talking about, Andrea Kaspari, that's a comedian, she just posted about somebody who, she just wrote a comment, she's encouraging on social media. You see her cheering for people, and I love that. She wrote a comment, nothing to do with any kind of weight or anything, and somebody responded to the comment, "Go to the gym." Man, that makes me mad. It makes me angry. Those kinds of things fuel my fire in the best way. You want to see me get lit up? I used to have a segment that I did on TikTok or whatever, and I would do a lot of story times. I did a lot of dancing, a lot of Bible reading, but I did things that light me up. And we might bring that back. Because, man, that's one of them. People got to be nicer. We're way over our time. It's fine. So this podcast started with no funding. You heard the story of the up. You kind of know who I am. I've got a daughter going into kindergarten. I had a baby during a pandemic. Why don't mothers get more praise for that? Just saying. If you know a lady that did have a baby during the pandemic, buy her something nice. She probably went through a lot. It was super isolating. I was a new mom too. It was my first time and it was hard. Just gonna say it. So as I do these interviews, we move into the season 3. I just want to say the feedback I got last week was so great. There's a lot of people that I don't even know that have reached out now, but there's a lot of people in my life that are just really kind to help and support. It makes a difference. I performed as a 39-year-old who's overweight. I performed last weekend at an event here in our town called Kids Fest. And I was scared because I put it out there online that I was going to be there, and you just never know who's going to show up or what's going to happen when you do that. But I did it because I'm trying to be fearless, and I'm not trying to live in fear. But then I have to perform in my 39-year-old body that's been injured and gone through multiple recoveries in the last few years. I have to perform in front of people. And I invited several friends to cheer on myself and my daughter, who was doing a solo. I'm so proud of her. And I may not be rich in money, and I may not have an exclusive podcast or a free Kia Carnival. But what I have is I have my faith. I'm still alive by the grace of God. And I've got people that love me and my family and support us. And I'm just a mom that's on a journey here, and I'm doing mine online. And I hope people enjoy it. I hope people learn from it and love it. And that's the only person I can be. I can't perform to be anything different. So I hope that tells you more about me. If you don't know me, it definitely tells stories that I haven't told as far as the name of the podcast and what my goal with that name was. What my goal for the podcast was to be obedient to the Lord. Whatever was laid on my heart, I put a lot of time and prayer into that. But I want to share a few things. I'm going to hop off here. Um, if you have a mom in your life, I got this as a gift, and it's one of the best gifts I've received. Um, you could go on Etsy or find a local artist. Um, this is my daughter, but it's a drawing, a hand drawing. It's not AI, okay? It's a hand drawing of her. What a great gift. I'm not promoting anything. This isn't an affiliate link. It's a gift from somebody that I know in real life. That's one of the most meaningful things that you can give a mother. I think men sometimes feel like women are a mystery. I don't know. I personally am all about like a $6 bag of flowers, something like this. Like, well done. I want to share something that's going to make me happier, and we're going to end on a joyful note. I am sent all kinds of stuff. I think just because I had a following, I got onto a lot of PR lists and still get stuff from that, and now I'm doing it all again. Anyway, have you guys seen the baby Jesus? Jesus loves you. These are so cute. I've seen them hidden all over the gym that I go to. I've seen them hidden in my town. I've not been handed one in person yet, although Annie and I have been handing out a lot of these bad boys. She loves to give out prayer cards, and now she loves these, so I'm going to have to order more, which is a great problem to have. I've been putting them on people's car handles after the gym. I don't know. You've been Jesused. The hashtag that I saw that went along with this is so cute. Everyone needs a LIL, a little Jesus. How cute is that? This is bringing me joy. Those $6 flowers that I bought myself, those are bringing me joy. I think joy is an inside job, and I think there's a lot of joy in Jesus. And if you don't know about Jesus, we are going to talk about it, but it's not the main goal of this season. I want to talk a lot about modern motherhood and how that looks for people and get vulnerable. But I just needed to share all this with you guys first, because as the interviewer and the steerer of the ship, I just wanted you guys to know. If you are somebody that struggles with panic attacks, anxiety, emotion, like I do, this is something that I'm not getting paid for this. This is not a paid sponsorship. This is something I use in my everyday life. I've got these everywhere. I've got them here on my desk, in my gym bag, in my car. This is made by Pacifica, and it's called Montana Sky. It's hair and body mist. But if you read the back, it is made like, so these scents are cedarwood, elderflower, and sage, and it is like brain reactive scents, and there's a little ditty about it you can find on their website. I saw somebody on TikTok, I think, talking about this and just how calming and restorative it was. And I found myself in a situation last year where I had a panic attack. I almost had one while I drove. That was super scary. You never want to have one while you're driving. But I had a panic attack. I had a couple. And this really has been a game changer for me. I'm not going to say it's going to cure you or heal you, but it just grounds me when I'm feeling like that anxiousness or something kind of sets me into a little bit of a tizzy. Mine was like due to like safety and security, and that's always a scary thing. But this has been such a great thing for me. I've recommended it to tons of friends in person, and I just want to share it online. And it's a great scent. It's a nice clean scent too. So like just great for your gym bag, great for a vacation, whatever. But it is like supposed to calm and clear. Like it's supposed to like kind of help move things out of your mind. And I don't know, like I said, I'm a communication girly. I didn't, study science intensely. I don't know all the science behind that. But what I do know is it's been working for me, and it's like $6 on Amazon. So you should try it. And I'll put a little link in the description here. But my name is Kristin. Everyone needs a little Jesus. Order a case of these. I'll put the link on. Order a case of these and give them out. One of the cutest things that's happened with these so far, I've only had them about a week. My daughter loves giving them out, as I said. Like, that's like her little ministry. She loves to, even when we go through like the drive-through, like, she's like, did you give them their prayer card? I mean, she's just, oh, I love her so much. Being a mom is the best. Love it. I yapped for too long. it is what it is. Anyway, she gave one of these to my stepdad, Scott, and he took it with him. He travels a lot for work. He took it with him this week to Texas, and he had to drive there. And so he put it on the dashboard and took little pictures of it along the way, like a little journey with Jesus. And we've just had the most fun this week with little jokes. And I just thought it was cute that, a 60-year-old man just got his little Jesus, taking him on a road trip. Everybody needs a little Jesus. If you're finding this on a day that you're down, I hope that you find your way back up. You are loved. You are chosen. There are better days. I always include resources. So if there's, something in your life that feels too big for you and you need to reach out to someone, I always include those in the notes of these episodes. And I've been there. Just know that you're not alone. And I can tell you specifically, there are better days. That's it. That's me. I'm Kristin Louise. This is The Up. We're going to roll into our season boldly and hopefully learn a lot from each other this summer. Your support, sharing this podcast, I'm not putting any money into it. I'm getting some money for usage rights of the podcast from a broadcast network, but I am not pouring any ad money into this. So if you could just like and share or tag somebody, that is how this project is really working. I would be so thankful and appreciative. And if you can't, well, thanks for listening. Have a great day. God bless.